Alright, disclaimer, guys. Like racism and sexism, ageism. I am reading this in the unfortunate. Um, this is the unfortunate, based on Roe versus Wade being struck down and not being able to codify Roe. There's things that are implied in this book that for why it's being overtaken, and there's a plan in the GOP just to force procreation. Um, all right, and it's unfortunate that we might have to face the overturn of Obergefell. Uh, all right. Um, The NRC/NAS panel attempted to make some unbiased estimates of an immigration situation that has been beragged and obfuscated by bizarre guesswork statistics, invariably high, generated by self-interest sources, especially regarding the number of illegal immigrants. Their conclusion, quote, a population of 1.5 to 3.5 million illegal aliens in 1980 appears reasonably consistent with most of the studies. There is no empirical basis at present for the widespread belief that illegal alien population has increased sharply in the late 1970s and early 1980s. The only data available on recent trends, in fact, suggests that illegal population has increased little, if at all, since 1977, although entry attempts have been increased. Um, the Census Bureau and other disinterested agencies has tried to make solid estimates in this field, has a somewhat higher estimate than the NRC/NAS. Census says the total number of illegals at the end of 1986 was in the 3 to 5 million range, with approximately 100 to 300,000 illegals coming in each year. Until the new law was passed, the Census Bureau used 200,000 as their official projection number for illegals. In congressional testimony, the Immigration and Naturalization Services, the hands-on agency in the field, endorsed the census estimates. As this is written, census experts are recalculating their projections in order to lower it progressively over the years as the expected impact of the new law is left. INS officials agree that the law will have a major effect on reducing the flow of illegals. Indeed, in the early part of 1987, the New York Times reported that thousands of illegal immigrants were already moving into Canada to avoid being subject to deportation under the new immigration law. At the same time, a Washington Post story, datelined Mexico, reported that substantial numbers of Mexican and Central American illegals were returning home for the same reason, for fears of deportation. Such deportations could be triggered if an illegal who arrived in America after the amnesty cutoff date sought to get a new job and couldn't provide appropriate timely resident documentation. What all this means is that there are fewer illegals in this country than most of us thought, fewer who will be applying for amnesty under the new law, and a lower flow of illegal immigrants has been popularly perceived. An illegal must have been in the U.S. prior to 1982 in order to qualify for amnesty. The World Bank and United Nations uses the figure 4,300 and 5,000 immigrants per year when projected U.S. data. Because the basic model of world population used in this book is from World Bank/UN resource, from the source. That is the basis of all the data and all the projections for all the countries used here, including the U.S. Unless otherwise noted, given the passage of the immigration bill, the World Bank/UN estimates seem to be a good rough figure to work with as a total for immigration to the U.S. The reasons behind this judgment are explained in a technical footnote below. Even before the new immigration law, demographers had estimated that all our immigration would have to soar from best estimate current levels to yield a population that would not decline to the next century. Demographer Roger Avery of Brown University estimated that immigration would have to be about 1 million per year net to yield the no less U.S. population in years to come. That is more than twice the current best estimate figure, and for that to happen would work against every political and attitudinal sentiment in America today. Avery also makes an estimate that puts much of the immigration picture in proper focus for the purposes of this book, which constraints on total fertility rates. He says the net effect of all immigration to the U.S., legal and illegal, would only yield the functional equivalent of raising our 1.8 TFR to 1.9 TFR. The third implicating factor is the rates themselves. It was mentioned that the total fertility rate is usually considered the best of the fertility rates for many purposes. Surely it is for our purpose here. Plain old birth rates, or more precisely, crude birth rates, are simply the rates of birth 1,000 people in the adult population. But, per 1,000 in the population. But as mentioned in Chapter 1, this rate makes no correlation for the number of those women who actually happen to be in the childbearing ages at the given moment. And so, a generation after a baby boom, that's now the number of births, as expressed by the crude birth rate, can be at a normal sort of level just because there happen to be so many women of childbearing age around, even if those numbers are having a very few babies per mother. This is a distraction with a difference. This is a distinction with a difference. Example, think of one couple bearing 3 children. Now think of 3 couples bearing 1 child. The number of children involved is the same, 3, but they do not yield the same long-range demographic result. In the first case, population growth increased by 50% in the first generation, 2 parents including 3 children. In the second case, the rate of population growth is increased by 50%, 6 parents producing 3 children. If you further stipulate that the offspring will behave in ways similar to their parents, then the powerful implications of continuing birth rates below replacement numbers becomes apparent. In one case, you get 4.5 children in the next generation, 1.5 females with a 3-point TFR, while in the other you get only 1.5 females with a 1-point TFR. That is 200% differential. Now, the birth rate can be very useful for certain sorts of measurements. So can the number of births, or the growth rate. These rates will be mentioned here as the occasion warrants, but all suffer from the fact that they are heavily weighed to have happened earlier than offering a true fix on what is happening right now in terms of real per-woman fertility behavior. And it is what is happening right now that will play a crucial role regarding what will happen in their future. The total fertility rate tries to correct for this. It measures birth rates for women of every age and attempts to correct for the age bumps stemming from prior rates. Now we come to the fourth factor, momentum and masking. The woman can be having children at a rate substantially less than 2.1 replacement rate, and yet for a while still produce a growing, not a shrinking, population as a result of prior fertility patterns. This complicating effect is usually called demographic momentum, or the echo effect. It tends to mask present fertility activity, but only temporarily. Sooner or later, the piper gets paid.